Welcome everyone to the Public Safety and Veterans Subcommittee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mayor, I think you have a motion.
Actually, I would move that we change the order of business, take item 12 first for the judges and the chief presiding judge.
All righty, that's a second, so I think all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now I move that we go into executive session to review the material, letting everyone know that we will return shortly.
All right, and is there a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So we're going to take about 5 to 10 minutes to discuss the judges' appointments, then we'll just come right back. Welcome back to the Public Safety and Veterans Subcommittee. We're on item number 12. Is there a motion or comments?
Mr. Chair, I make the motion to reappoint Judge Laura Lowry as judge for a 4-year term that would end on September 30, 2022, to table the reappointment of Judge Doyle and come back to the Public Safety and Veterans Subcommittee after a period of 6 months with continued improvements, and further move to reappoint Chief Presiding Judge B. Don Taylor III as a judge for a 4-year term that will end on February 9th, 2021, and for an annual term as Chief Presiding Judge that will end on June 30, 2019, with an increase of base salary of 5%.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, judges. Next item is call to the public. Do we have any cards? We have one. J.J. Johnson. Johnson?
Mayor, council members, we just had another of our neighbors killed by a police officer in the city of Phoenix. I just got done watching the video. The weapon that the police department would have us believe that the person was supposedly using on the officer was a handcuff. If an officer can't handle somebody who has a handcuff on their hand, he couldn't have gone to my junior high school. This is absolutely ridiculous. We are on pace here in the city of Phoenix to kill more people. Our law enforcement officers are going to kill more people than the entire European Union. CPTI, how old is that now? 7 years? It's been around for 7 years. We haven't done a damn thing. Nothing. Nothing's been accomplished. It is shameful. We have a city manager who carries water for an officer's ability to panic and shoot somebody. We have a county attorney across the street that is the weakest circus lemonade possible and will not hold somebody accountable. I am fed up, and it is going to be a campaign issue for each one of you if you are not going to replace the city manager who has drenched the city in blood by failing to manage this police force. It is going to be an issue for each and every one of you. Each and every one of you is going to have to develop a plan to say, here's how I'm going to end police violence in the community. Even when the person has a gun, you don't have the credibility. This police department doesn't have the credibility, especially when there's a toy gun or a pellet gun involved. How do I know that wasn't in that officer's war bag? Because we've seen in Dallas and Mississippi and in Baltimore that's the new term, that's the new thing that they do, is they carry a pellet gun with them so that when they freak out and shoot somebody, now they can go ahead and do that. And one last thing about the format of how you do this is that you give unlimited time to law enforcement to talk, but you try to muzzle us with 2 or 3 minutes to make a comment. It is asymmetrical and it is unfair.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next is the approval of the minutes of May 19th. Or May 9th, I mean. Sorry about that.
Move approval for May 9th,
Second.
2018.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We're on the consent items.
I would move consent items 2 through 8, except for 4, 5, and 6.
Second.
All right, a motion to approve on consent items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So now we're on item number 4. Good morning, Chief. How you doing?
So Mr. Chairman, members of this subcommittee, item number 4 is the acquisition of the long-range acoustic device. This device is something that Commander Brad Burt, who's sitting to my right, Assistant Chief Sandra Renteria, both looked at, and it is a system to best communicate information in crowd control circumstances. If you all recall, we had some challenges with communication during the protests that happened on August 22nd. This system will allow us to communicate to our community members accurate and timely information so that they can make decisions and we can direct them to go different places if things get rough downtown or anywhere in our city.
Thank you, Chief. We have 3 cards from the public. Would you all like to hear those first? We have J.J. Johnson again. Come on down.
Mayor, council, do not give another weapon to this police department. Do not give them another weapon to wage violence against the public. The LRAD is not a loudspeaker. The LRAD is a long-range area denial device. It is designed to make such an incredibly loud sound as to disorient people. Until we have had an impartial third party do a study on the health risks associated with using that, it is inconceivable that you would allow Jerry Williams to unleash this weapon on our friends and neighbors. It makes no sense whatsoever. It can permanently harm the hearing of people there. And given the indiscriminate way that Chief Williams' staff will unleash violence against the community, we can't trust this department. We can't trust these individual officers to have the judgment to be able to aim a sonic weapon at a wide range of people and just unleash it. I won't have it. Once again, no LRAD in Phoenix. We don't need it. They had the opportunity to fly the helicopter over and make announcements, and they chose not to do that. They could have a sign truck out there to drive by on their side of the barriers and say, disperse, leave the area. Instead, they chose to go with pepper balls and baton rounds. No, absolutely not. We are not going to spend the money. And how much money are we talking about? How much money are we talking about for this? No. Take that $43,000 and use it to send an officer to Great Britain in a place where they don't kill people on the regular. Plant that officer for 6 months with the London Metropolitan Police to learn how to police without killing people. That is $43,000 for an LRAD is a terrible use of taxpayer money. Don't you do it.
Chief, my understanding that it was actually a sound system to inform people to disperse from a protest or something like that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, it is not a weapon. It's an acoustic device. It is used by Tempe PD also, and this is our CART award funds and not our general fund budget.
Any other questions? Councilmember Pastor?
I actually would like to continue this item because I want to know what the LRAD does. I have never experienced it, seen it, heard it, and I would like the ability to understand it before I vote on this. And I guess we could go to Tempe probably, so that then I have an understanding of what this item would do in these type of situations.
Was that a motion or?
That's a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue. And the further conversations would be, or discussion would be on the continuance of this item. So the next card we have is Ken Chapman. Did you want to talk about the continuance? Heather? Alrighty. So with that, any other discussions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This, it passes. The motion is continued to next meeting. So we're on item number 5.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, as was previously mentioned, there is an increase in violence in our community. Although I don't necessarily agree with the increase in violence with the police department, I will say that there are violent members of our community who in 25 different instances have used either guns, knives, or some type of item to harm officers. We have not experienced this kind of uptick in 29 years that I can recall and remember, and to not allow an independent body to come in and research the whys, look at training, figure out ways to make our officers safe, I frankly think it would be irresponsible for us not to do this. So what we've suggested is that we call in the National Police Foundation to come in and work with Arizona State University to conduct a research study on the incidents that we've had this year. If you don't know anything about the foundation, they are focused on community safety, they're focused on officer safety, they have a database of about 1,200 different officer-involved shootings and data points in that. They can come in and within 6 months or so, we'll find out more of the whys behind the shooting so that I can arm the community as well as our officers with any information that they need to be safe. And they will also, as a continuation with Arizona State University, and Councilwoman Pastor and I have talked about this in the past, looking at some of the socioeconomic issues, the societal issues that are going on that's causing folks to be violent and aggressive towards police. I also want you all to know, too, that in at least 14 or 15 of the 25, the individuals that police came in contact with were violent or aggressive or killed or murdered people prior to us arriving on scene. So again, for us not to do something about this, not to look into this, is irresponsible, and I want to be that proactive chief who calls folks in to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and make some suggestions on how we can get better.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
I have a quick question, Chief. As part of this study, I applaud you for doing this, but I want to be sure that if the study determines there are methodologies to educate public more on how to stay safe, make sure that that's included as one of the solutions.
So Mayor, members of the subcommittee, absolutely, which is again why we have the key component of Arizona State University. Along with that study, they will provide us the information that we need, not just internally, but to make our community safe. And I wholeheartedly agree on educating our public on what not to do and what behaviors not to have happen in order for us not to have to be so reactionary to the violence that's being placed in my officers.
And I'm hopeful that it will also provide suggestions for additional training for our officers. I think it's very important that they're going through some turbulent times, and the more training they get, the better we are.
And the foundation, Mayor Williams, members of the subcommittee, they are good at providing training information and data points for that. It would be really good to work with them. Thank you.
We have quite a few cards from the public. Would you mind if we, all right, we'll go with the first one, Judith. If you can state your name and,
Yep, Judith Danvers. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yep, Judith Danvers, and I have something very important to say. Say my name. shot by Phoenix Police Department May 24th at 101 and 7th Street.
Where? Sandra?
Eliane Purchase. Say my name. Shot at by the Felix Police Department, June 10th, 23rd Avenue and Cactus.
Felix? Next will be Michael Ingram.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felix Moran. I actually have some stuff typed up. I just did a lot of research about the Phoenix Police Department. I did pretty much all the information that I got is accurate data. It has been collected from January 1st, 2013, all the way to December 2017. The data was collected alongside with 2010 U.S. Census population data with 2014 FBI Uniform Crime Report. The police department total population of jurisdiction is 1,445,632. All people killed by the police officers since January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2017 have been 75. An average annual police homicide rate for all people have been 11. Currently, in 2018, the police department has killed 14 in the first 6 months of this year alone. As we can see, the numbers have been escalated rapidly. The symptoms of the illnesses that some of these victims were, 5 of them were under the influences of drugs and alcohol. 12 had mental health issues. 14 of them were unknown. No mental issues were for the other 44 that were killed, and we're not currently counting the 2018 victims. I would like to insert my opinion in this. After I read all the summary reports typed up from the Phoenix Police Department, you can tell clearly that these victims have symptoms of mental health. I know the Phoenix Police Department doesn't have proper training to tell if a victim is mentally ill or not. I know this because of my friend Francisco Valdez, who was shot by the Phoenix Police Department, was mentally ill. His mother, sorry about that. His mother reported to the Phoenix Police Department that he was in need of his medication, and the end result, he was shot and killed. His family has heard nothing about the police body cam and the case. We have protested and brought this issue before the city council, and we were told that it would investigate the situation. The officer that killed Francisco Valdez on March 23rd, 2017 is still working for the Phoenix Police Department.
Can you kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna take my time because I know you guys take your guys' time when you guys go into the communities, and it is not fair that we have to obey when you guys are not obeying what the laws you guys have established.
We need to respect the time.
And I am respecting the time, so respect my time as well, because I have a lot that I have to say.
Felix,
It's accurate
your time's up.
information.
Sorry. The next person is
In the
Michael,
summary that was typed up from the
Instagram.
Police Department, it said that unknown mental health issues. That makes me believe
Felix.
that some of them were marked as
Felix, we got to respect. We have a lot of
they might have
people.
mental health issues.
Can we turn the mic off, please?
Out of the 75 killed in the hands of the Phoenix Police Department, none known charges were done to the police department or they were held accountable.
The next person we have is Michael.
A
Ingram.
deadly definition of use to convey something is claimed that case or has taken through with no proof. So some of these people were allegedly armed. This being said, it isn't clear. It is being.
Thank you, Felix.
Felix.
Agenda item 5 says they're going to bring in the National Police Foundation to conduct doctor-involved study. I'm not sure how familiar many of you are with research, but at one point research says that smoking wasn't addictive or dangerous. The idea that you can bring in your own chosen researcher to research to give a predetermined answer is very real. It should be discussed who is coming in and why they're coming in. I don't know about these people, but I'm sure most of us don't. And that is dangerous. This study will be used against the community for the next 5 to 10 years. You're not going to conduct a study like this for $150,000 again. So I urge you to say no, and we have a real conversation about who we're bringing in. Because the last thing I'm willing to listen to as someone who does data all the time is, well, our last research study said this. And if they're liars, or honestly, if they are pro-police more than they are pro-community, we will never be able to trust that information. And most importantly, you will lose all trust and credibility when making decisions for the rest of your community. $150,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to give to an organization to do research that I'm sure very few of us in this room have any clue about. So unless we want to be talking in 15 years about that research study that basically said smoking's not addictive in Phoenix, we should definitely say no to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana Gonzalez.
So first off, I'd like to say thank you for finally admitting and acknowledging that there is a problem with policing. To quote the proposal for the study, the Phoenix Police Department has an immediate and critical operational need to address the number of OIS incidents that have occurred since the beginning of the year. Between January 1st and May 29, 2018, there have been 23 OIS incidents in Phoenix. Historically, this is a number of OIS incidents that occur on an annual basis. We don't need a study to confirm that police are killing us. We have 14 Phoenix residents that were murdered and a total of 25 OIS to perfectly illustrate this point. The city of Phoenix has found an emergency $149,000 for this fund, but still cannot seem to find the money or the will to create a compensation fund for these victims of police threats and murders. This study will not change the cultures of violence within the police department. It will not hold the police accountable, as there is no accountability written into this proposal. Phoenix police are killing us now. Our communities are experiencing this trauma now. The study will not heal this trauma. All this study will do is provide data points on police killings. We insist you immediately address what is happening now. We insist you instruct the city manager's office to set aside money for a compensation fund. We don't have 6 months to wait. How many people will die at the hands of your police in the next 6 months while we wait for the study? There's blood on your hands.
Thank you so much.
Andre Rippey, killed by Phoenix Police Department, April 14th, 14th Ave and Thomas.
Martin Pettis. Martin. Martin Pettis. Martin Pettis.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Eh,
Sorry, also, if there's any translator interpreter in the office, I went and asked, they said there was no one here, but I've been interpreting. But if you can find someone else, that would be great, because I'm not getting paid for this.
Mi nombre David Gardea.
I'm here on representation. My name is David Gardea.
Fui asesinado el marzo 9
I was killed on March 9th
en 59 Avenida y Tamas.
on 59th Avenue in Thomas.
Thank you.
Gracias. Jennifer Hernandez.
Kevin Robles, killed by PPD, March 23rd, 75th Ave in Indian School. The city of Phoenix has found an emergency $149,000 for this study, but couldn't seem to find the money or the will to create a resource that will actually help our communities traumatized by police violence. This study will not heal that trauma. All this study is going to do is talk about data points on police killings. We don't need your confirmations. We have the numbers. We have the information. We're the ones living the stories, living the trauma. And we don't have 6 months to wait. Phoenix PD is killing us now and fast. And if you wait 6 months, how many more people will you let your police shoot or kill? It's up to you, City Council.
Thank you so much. Mr. Muhammad.
You know, it was very clear, if I understood correctly, from the chief that this study is designed to protect the police officers, to make sure that they're safe. And I actually went online and did the research. And when you read the study and you read the questions that are part of the study, you know, it would be okay if the officers were honest. It's based on actually the officers being honest in giving their police reports. It's a glorified police report. And the reality of what we've seen in our community and what you're hearing from us is our frustration. Our frustration that officers are killing us in the street and there's no consequences for the action that they are taking. And what this council has to realize and what this community has to realize is that we have power too. And we may not have the money that you have, but we have the ability to shut this city down. We have the ability to impede and stop the flow of money that you are using to train these officers who come in the streets to kill us. We have the ability to stand up for ourselves and show that we are tired, we are frustrated, we are angry, and we are tired of solutions that are being offered that are not real solutions to speak to our pain. And the reality is that the officers, and I hate to say this way, but even the council, you are not feeling the pain of the community that you represent. On the side of the police car, it says serve and protect. We are not being served, we're not being protected. We're dying in the streets, and we are tired. So I just want to say this. This is a fair warning that we are not going to continue to take this madness. And if you don't come up with a solution, then we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Cynthia Diaz.
Hello. First of all, why are the officers on their cell phone and not paying attention to us? Say my name. Murdered by Phoenix Police Department just yesterday, June 12, 2018. Central and Osborne by the light rail. Thank you.
I believe it's Suki, is it?
Yesterday, in my old neighborhood, one officer declared himself judge, jury, and executioner and took a life. He took a life again. We've had enough. Say my name. Shot by Phoenix Police Department, March 7, 33rd Avenue in Washington. I am an educator. I have a former student who was killed by the police. I'm done.
Thank you. Judith?
Say my name. Jordan Keckott, killed by Phoenix Police Department, January 17th, 2018, at 32nd Street in Thomas. Jordan was 22. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie? And then Christopher Martinez is up next.
Robbie Brown, May 29th, was shot by the Phoenix Police Department on a bus full of passengers and served an instant death penalty.
Thank you. Christopher. Next will be Robin Kemp.
On April 25th, Michael Snyder was tased to death on 12th Street in Callenbeck. I was just going to say the name, but after listening to the chief speak, I was reminded of a really close friend of mine who had been abused by their spouse, and he would say things like, "You made me hit you." And when I hear the chief say that they're made to act violently towards the community, that's what I hear. Because, you know, it's the same mentality. I heard no responsibility whatsoever, not in the slightest. And we have to reach a point where we say mistakes are made and somebody needs to take responsibility. We have to reach a point where we say the City of Phoenix Police Department needs to be accountable to the people they're supposed to serve. We can't do that when we're at a point where we're saying every violent action by a member of the police department is caused by somebody else making a mistake. A handcuff is not a weapon that's going to take the life of an officer. It shouldn't be a death sentence. And we have to be there where we're saying mistakes are made, let's hold people accountable, and let's find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin? Next will be Elaine.
My name is Robin Kemp, Council Mayor. Say my name, Lazaro Curiel, shot by Phoenix Police Department, February 16th on 91st Ave in McDowell.
Elaine?
Eileen Purchase.
Yeah, Purchase.
Oh, she went. She
All right.
already went. Thank you.
Jennifer?
My name is Jennifer Chavis. I was tear gassed without warning, but much more importantly, say my name, William Willis, shot by the Phoenix Police Department on March 28th at 24th Street in Osborne.
Thank you. Willow? And Maria Sanchez is on standby.
So it's your guys' misunderstanding that it's not the increase in violence amongst our community. It's actually increase in violence amongst your police officers. Police are making more aggressive action, and then it leads to becoming afraid because of the action that they made, and it makes them lead to rash decisions. That like we're not training the people to survive the police. We're training the police to not be violent towards our people. We're not more violent, you're more violent towards us. If we are actually like in this huge upheaval of peace and like coming together as a community, so it's hard for me to see the police perspective that we're actually like dangerous and trying to bring negative change in the world. I haven't seen it lately in the community. Instead of buying new like methods of training we have to bring awareness to police brutality, and we plead you to be aware by holding everybody accountable to honor the lives of the people like Say My Name, shot by PPD May 1st, 21st Ave in Van Buren, and like not let them die in vain, please.
Maria Sanchez and Alondra Sanchez is on next. Alondra.
Say my name, Jairo Contreras, shot by Phoenix Police Department, April 17th, on 24th Street and Camelback.
Alondra Sanchez.
Say my name. It's a doorbird shot by your police department on January 10th on 32nd Street in Southern. What's crazy to me is that your police department can go around killing us, be afraid, even though they received training, but we can't fear for our lives. We can't even get you to do a fund for trauma that you caused because you created this culture. Wow. I see where your priorities really are. You want to let them get scotch-free and get a study that will tell them that their actions are okay, but we can't get your help, even though we voted for you, even though we put you there? Okay.
Thank you. Heather?
Alexis Stinson, killed by Phoenix PD, April 4th on 43rd Avenue in Union Hills. It was very interesting to hear Chief Williams speak about an alleged increase in violence in this city. And she's right. There is an increase in violence, and there has been an increase in the number of people who kill others. There has been an increase in the amount of violence and murderers, and it is all right here. The increase of violence that we're seeing in this city is all situated right here. We don't need a study to validate a police narrative or to tell us that the reason that police are killing our neighbors is because they had it coming or because they deserved it. What we need is money to help the victims of police violence, to help the communities who have been traumatized by over-policing, by over-surveillance. We need a fund so that they can heal from the trauma meted out to them by Phoenix Police Department. That $149,000 shouldn't be spent on rubber stamping the police narrative that justifies brutality. It should go to helping the victims of that trauma. Thank you.
This next one is it? I can't pronounce the name. But the last name is Havan or something like that. Halat.
Tricicio?
Is it Tricicio? Jaler? Going once, going twice. Alexandria Rodriguez, is it?
Good morning, Councilman. Before I start, I kind of want to ask a question to Chief Williams. If you can look me in the eye while I'm speaking, I just don't feel listened to as a speaker here. I just request you to look at me in the eye. Thank you. I want to begin with stating something that happened to me yesterday. So I walked into the office yesterday morning, and a friend of mine was working on a map. And I asked him, filled with joy, I was asking him if he was marking where our organization did surveys within the community. And it looked like a lot. So I was happy to see that he was working on that. And he turned to me in a low voice and said, no, this is how many people that Phoenix Police Department has killed. And I looked in that map and put a pit in my stomach. And later that day, I was in a room with a dozen or so people within that same organization. And we found out that the man who was shot that day died in the hospital earlier that hour. The tears that fell down the faces of the men and women in that room broke me. To know that our councilmen aren't doing anything about this when we're bringing you these things, these funds to help the people of our community, and we're not hearing anything. And I wanted to bring light to Thelda Williams, Mayor Williams. On May 22nd, 2018, during the City Council policy session, you stated a couple things that just didn't quite make sense to me, and I wanted to ask a question about that. You stated it's not a priority in this year's budget. I would like to ask you exactly what year our community and safety health due to trauma from police will be a priority. You also said, I don't think we should have a fund to turn around and attack policemen. I would very much like to be informed on how a fund created for a community to heal trauma attacks policemen. How does helping our community attack policemen? Does admitting that you're violent attack policemen? We need to see something, because how many people are going to die in the hands of Phoenix Police Department in those 6 months during this research? Why can you find $149,000 for this study, but not find a small amount to find a fund to fund our fund that simply wants to help our community with this trauma? I don't understand.
Next we have Bertha, is it?
Bertha. Rita.
Berta?
Berta, Rita.
The last name is Rita. Or it could be the middle, a two name.
Buenos días.
Buenos
Mi
días.
nombre es José González. La policía me mató marzo 27 en la 31 Avenida y la Roosevelt.
Good morning. My name is Jose Gonzalez. Phoenix Police Department killed me March 27 on 31st Avenue in Roosevelt.
Then we have Paris.
Hang on. Do we have a translator? Okay.
Good morning. I would like to be able to address Chief Williams directly. As a person that is in a room with people, I'd like to talk to the people. Edward
I just want to
Callahan-
make it very clear that
No, I
the way we
understand.
have it set up is that
Their back is to us for a reason.
The individuals are speaking to us as
No, I
the policy
understand.
and decision makers, and it's not set up to have their backs towards you. It's just the way that we have these
No, it's
subcommittees set
perfect.
up.
I understand.
So it's not
You don't
her-
have to face me.
Right.
I'll still say
no,
my
but
words.
she'll face you, but I'm just saying that it's not on purpose, right?
Thank you. Basically, the police department, as we know, is violent. You put out 32 pages in your agenda, right? And I went through and I read and I pulled out all the information. It's obviously not an opinion, you know this, right? You found money to fund data research. You know, we have data researchers too. Some of our data researchers told me that Edward Callahan was killed by PPD. I don't know if you guys remember him. February 21st, 35th Avenue and Thomas. It happened so quickly and rapidly. I'm keeping all the names straight, right? Now that you've admitted this, what obviously we've known for years, I've lived here my entire life, right up the street, right? Councilwoman Pastor is my district representative. Thank you for your services. The report will be used, obviously, as a political football, you know, just so we can just bounce it around, you know? You're not gonna actually do anything different. I don't believe you will, not even a little bit, right? I have people in my family that serve as well. I know it's stressful. I have a family I wanna go home to every day, right? But when I think about how public transportation is no longer safe, right? Driving in my car is no longer safe. I saw y'all running my plates yesterday in the parking lot at Walgreens while I was on the phone, right? I had to get out of my car and go inside and buy something to stop being harassed. I understand how this works, right? I pay my taxes, I work a job, I'm educated. But you guys treat us as if we are not supposed to know this information. You treat us like bringing the LRAD to our city is going to help us. You guys use it on teachers, right? What weapons were the teachers and my child? How did you feel threatened by that? Because there were too many of them? I just need a little more understanding. Break it down to me. As a community member, break it down to me in words that I understand. Treat me the way that you think that I am, right? Spell it out.
Thank you so much. Elsa?
Say My Name, shot by PPD, May 6th, 40th Ave in Missouri.
We just got Joe Larius.
Say My Name, John Wessler, killed by Phoenix PD, April 1st, 32nd Street in McDowell. I think it's important we acknowledge the humanity of people brutalized and killed by Phoenix PD, in large part because the culture is to invisibilize that humanity. And when we think about the systemic problem of why we see this increase in violence and where that culture comes from, that allows us to continue to invisibilize these people, where we can't even set up a fund to address the trauma by the loss of these human beings. I think of plea, and I think of voices like Ken Crane, who at every turn tells the council, tells the chief, tells this committee, and tells the public, whose voices matter and whose lives matter, and never visibilizes the collective impact of the violence that is inflicted on the public. And so have some courage to stand up to that bully that is consistently in the schoolyard setting this culture of fear where we can't talk about these fundamental elements of healing that our community needs. And so let's call out the problem where it is and where it exists. And we're never gonna fix it if we continue to let that bully dominate this discourse.
I was bypassed earlier, or someone else stepped up. I'm Sandra Weir. Say my name. Jacob Uptain, killed by Phoenix Police Department, February 22nd, 99th Avenue and Broadway. To say the names and center the community in the studies, that's a way to shed light on issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hasmin? Or is it Jasmine?
Yasmin.
Hi, my name is Yasmin. First of all, thank you for finally admitting that there's a problem, right? You said it yourself. It's an immediate and a critical need to address the officer-involved shootings this year, and like somehow you've conjured up this money to do this study that will give you information that is already right in front of you, but you can't conjure up money to help the community directly. But if I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, I feel like you're tiptoeing around the issue and you're not really working towards a safer community. And I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now because yesterday we lost another life, and I wish I wouldn't have had to wake up yesterday and heard that another person died and counting, because in 6 months, while we wait for this study to be over, like there's gonna be more deaths, and that's like a guarantee. And I'm really angry and impatient and disappointed. And I'm not sure about you, but I really wish that tomorrow I don't have to wake up and hear that another person has died, or the day after that, or the next day. And I wish that the other 14 times I wouldn't have had to hear that. But if you really find this to be an immediate need to address, then you can start doing something actually to help our communities and the real people that are being impacted. This study will only give you information that you already have, and that can be proved to you by the 14 dead people and families that are suffering right now. Because, right, it's not just losing someone, it's really traumatic in the way that they're being killed by someone who we're supposed to trust, and someone who we're supposed to call for help, and someone who is supposed to be good. So the way that we're now feeling scared of them, and the families that have to go through that, it's really traumatic. And there has to be something to help them directly, and this study is not going to do that. I just wish you would understood the urgency more than just on a piece of paper, further than that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez? Vivi, where are you? Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. My name is Viri Hernandez. I don't know. I don't even know what to say at this point. Extremely just hurt and angry because, even though it was wrong, I felt like there was a little bit of hope in like when I read a little bit of the study. I know it was stupid of me to think, but I did. I was like, okay, maybe they have admitted that there is an issue. I mean, they're saying it, and they said it, I like quote, right, like that these shootings and this crime is affecting public safety. And then I come here and I hear that the talking points that are being reiterated are the talking points that I also saw at plea, their press thing this morning as well, that blames us for being killed, that blames people in Phoenix for being killed. There's never gonna be a moving forward. I don't care how much people wanna say it, how much you wanna like pretend that we're trying to build trust. Trust will never be built until the abuser admits that they're doing the abusing, until they admit that this is happening. And it is crazy to me that y'all don't see that correlation as people who, and Thelda Williams, I've seen you in so many things, who champion domestic violence victims, survivors, right? Who are national, like have a whole month about purple, and you wear purple, and you wear purple dresses, and you wear purple ties, and you wear purple buildings, I don't know, you know, right? All this purple around to call attention to the violence and the domestic violence and the relationship and how people are stuck in those situations. And yet we're talking here about an abuser that is with the city, that is the police department. And what we're doing today, and what I've heard in all the talking points from, you know, Ken Crane, and all the talking points this morning from Chief Williams, is blaming the victim, blaming the person. And so that's on top of all the atrocities that are happening. The fact that in 6 months, we have killed, as a city, 14 people, has matched the number from 2017, total killings. And a lot of those are happening, actually, Councilwoman Pastor, they're in District 4. Right, so what does that mean? What does that mean, right? This is the legacy that, you know, and putting this on Mayor Williams, this is something you're coming to. This is the legacy of Greg Stanton. So it's not, and of all of y'all who've been here for so long. This didn't just happen tonight. This didn't just happen this year. You have seen reports from officer-involved shootings since 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, saying the same damn thing, that it is violent, that there's no records, that there's nothing happening, and yet here we are talking about another study that is not gonna stop the killings that are gonna happen in the next 6 months. So what's gonna happen then? You can't just talk. This doesn't matter. And what I heard too is that this report is supposed to now prove how actually y'all were right. You should have killed us.
Wrap it up.
So that is where we're at. And yeah, we're tired of it. We're tired of it, y'all. So no, you don't get to just talk and say we want police trust. You can't say we just stand with survivors. You can't say any of those talking points. But guess what? Because right now, your actions prove otherwise.
Okay,
Thank you.
Some more speakers. Thank you. Joanne Scott Woods.
I don't think when an outside agency like the National Police Foundation compares us to 50 of the largest law enforcement agencies across the United States and Canada, that they'll find fault with our training. We have extensive training. I think the fault lies in lack of accountability to the public through dash cams and body cams, and lack of accountability within the department. There are few self-reports from officers that they're at risk for violent behavior, and there are officers who are not identified as they are failing to act upon or understand their training. And there are few reports from colleagues and supervisors on the at-risk officers, and there is the high stress from being understaffed. I would like to receive feedback on whether the National Police Foundation analyzes factors like use of body cams and dash cams and data-driven early intervention systems, and the staffing of on-site psychologists in reducing officer-involved shootings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards for Ken Crane. Is he here? Ken, you think you can do it within 5 to 6 minutes?
Yeah. I know probably won't need all the time, but good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. Thanks for being able to come and speak on this. A lot of very heartfelt comments on this topic this morning from everybody. Plea 2 does oppose this study, maybe for a little bit different reasons than other things that we're hearing. I want to address a few things based on what we're seeing written up here in this agenda item. First, an immediate and critical operational need for a shooting study. Immediate and critical operational need are trigger words that create the illusion of catastrophic failures just around the corner if we don't immediately spend $150,000 in taxpayer dollars on a shooting study. It's false and misleading. The Phoenix Police Department will continue to function regardless of whether or not a shooting study is done. The second paragraph of the agenda item states, in part, quote, an in-depth analysis of OIS incidents in Phoenix will provide the department with deeper understanding of these events to gain a full picture of each incident to determine not only what occurred, but how and why from the point of initiation to conclusion. We find this statement astounding, frankly, because the comments are a slap in the face to all our hard-working Phoenix PD homicide and internal affairs investigators who conduct in-depth internal and criminal investigations on all OISs to determine, you guessed it, what occurred as well as the how and why. So why then is there a need for all our shooting investigations to be reviewed by an out-of-state third-party entity? Our homicide investigators are considered experts in OIS investigations to the point that they teach other agencies how to conduct them. In addition to internal and criminal investigations, the PPD has a tactical review team that rolls out to shooting scenes to evaluate tactics that were used to determine if there are policy or training failures that need to be addressed. And finally, the county attorney's office closely reviews the criminal investigation to determine if criminal charges are warranted. By my count, this is 4 layers of investigative review that specifically delves into what, how, and why the criteria laid out in the second paragraph. The procurement paragraph reads in part, quote, the National Police Foundation has been developing an extensive multi-agency OIS data set as a part of a groundbreaking collaborative with Major Cities Chiefs Association. The data set currently contains detailed information on more than 1,200 OIS encounters as reported by more than 50 of the largest law enforcement agencies across the U.S. and Canada. This will allow regional and national comparisons between OIS and Phoenix to those in other agencies. A few questions on this. A few of us from my shop had examined the Police Foundation website and could find no evidence of them touting an OIS database of any type. I'm not saying they don't have it, but we sure couldn't find it on their website. What we did find was touting some one-off studies they had done, for example, the Orlando, Florida Pulse nightclub shooting and shootings in a few other jurisdictions. So my question is this, how is data from a shooting that occurred in Orlando, Florida, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or Charleston, South Carolina going to translate into usable data that's relatable to Phoenix OISs? Lastly, I want to address the emergency clause in this document. The high number of officer-involved shootings are a threat to public safety and expose the city to serious liability. It's an outrageous statement on its face. The average person reading this is given the impression Phoenix officers are out of control, shooting people left and right without provocation or justification, and therefore exposing the city to serious liability. This emergency clause also does not square with previous conversations we've had with the chief, where she told us the purpose of the study was not to look at the officers, but that she didn't have a problem with what our officers were doing because up to that point in time, every shooting, we had seen threats against our officers, attacks with weapons and knives, which we agree with on that point. She told us that our officers had thus far used force. We're facing violent threats involving suspects with guns or knives. So an emergency clause statement worded in this manner does a few things. First of all, it automatically biases your study and could be easily interpreted as an expectation of what you expect to find when the study concludes. This is a public record, this is out there, and this is very inflammatory language, and that's not how you do data and research studies. You don't bias the study. It can be interpreted by rank and file PD as management, city management saying, look, we don't have confidence in your ability to do police work, all right? It could also be viewed as an open invitation for a consent decree from the DOJ to come in. So what are we trying to accomplish here? There's an overarching reason for using inflammatory phrases like critical operational need, threat to public safety, and exposing the city to serious liability. By creating an illusion of emergency circumstances, the normal RFP process can be bypassed, allowing for the selection of whomever the PD wants to pick. We don't have to go through an RFP process. And if there really is a threat to public safety and the city is being exposed to serious liability, isn't this an issue for city risk management? Shouldn't the city, rather than the police department, pay for the study? And then that leaves the question, why is the PD even getting involved into the mix on this? If, as the chief told us, she doesn't believe our officers are doing anything wrong, then why the need for a study, and what are we studying? Are we studying the psychology and sociology behind suspect behavior? If so, then what do we hope to gain other than what we already know? Trying to nail down psychosocial norms in a given geographic area can be about as effective as trying to put fog in a bottle. Societal and psychological issues can shift like sands in the desert. What we know today can be drastically different 6 months from now. There is no exigency to do a study. What we're seeing is people looking for political cover. When questioned, they can say, we're doing a study. We formed a committee. It's a convenient but very expensive, funded by taxpayer dollars, by the way to deflect potential heat. Our officers don't go out on the street daily looking for the fight. The exigency is that we are dealing with a society where certain segments, not everybody, certain segments refuse to submit to lawful authority and are increasingly willing to engage the police in violent acts, often for no apparent reason. We don't need a 150 case study.
Will everybody be quiet, please? Can you wrap? Can you hold on for a second? Can you go ahead and wrap it up, please?
Yeah. If you want me to tell you what the inherent problems we think we see with the study or what we think we should do with the money, I can go into that for you.
Can you please be quiet? Excuse me. Excuse me.
Okay.
And that's all the cards that we have right now? Oh, we have one more coming down. Here we go. Mr. Chapman.
So many good points that Mr. Crane made. This is political cover. You're absolutely right. We've got the city council, the mayor, the previous mayor, the chief, everyone talking out of both sides of their mouth, looking for every opportunity to avoid, to obfuscate, to hide, to shirk their responsibility of holding your officers, your members accountable. Absolutely 100% agree with you. I look at this as a fundamental problem. This report will do nothing to change the culture of police violence. This report will do nothing to hold officers accountable. This report will do nothing to heal the community that has been traumatized by police violence. We all can agree on that. The problem here is that the council will not hold anyone accountable. It's your job. We sent you here for a very specific reason, which is to help govern our city in a way that is healthy and safe for all of our community. You have neglected your duty for so long that it has allowed this culture of violence to grow like a cancer. We have to admit that you have failed in your responsibility, and so we are here today asking for concessions, begging for pennies just to help people, because you have already neglected your responsibility for so long. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here. We have lives. We all have better things to do. But if you all won't do your job, somebody's got to show up and remind you, hey, you work for us. Last point. When we have an incident of police violence and you do not say anything, when you are silent, when you sit there and refuse to deal with the circumstances that led to that situation, to hold an officer accountable, to fire people when they need to get fired.
And you got about 10 more seconds.
When you do not do that, you have that person's blood on your hands. You bear that guilt. You bear that shame. That is yours. Your sin.
Thank you. And that's all the cards that we have. Any questions, discussions, concerns? Councilmember Pastor.
So yesterday, I was in a dialogue or training with, and the purpose was for us city council members to figure out what our agenda is for the next 2 or 3 years, or what our priorities were as holistically for the city. And we had a really excellent facilitator who really, at least in my part, got me thinking and understanding really human behavior and ways of how we communicate. And yesterday, he stated one of the key questions is to ask why. Why are we at this point? And really, at the end of the day, was what is the outcome that you want and the why? And so my question is, what is the outcome? Is this truly, this study really going to get to the why? And I'm just saying that as I was listening and hearing, and if it's not, then let's do the study so it does get to the why, and have the true understanding of what is happening within our community. And when I say our community, I mean that includes the police officers, because they are part of our community. And what is truly the stresses that is happening within our community that is causing the reaction on both sides on how we react in a type of situation where at that moment only those two people are in that space and world of what is going on. And that is very difficult, first of all, to understand and to put the pieces back together. So those are my statements. And then.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, I heard all of the comments and conversation on both sides, on the police side, on the community side. I too am tired. And I am tired of every day having to get up and go to an officer-involved shooting. I, too, am tired that community members are making choices, whether they are able to make them through a corrective lens of mental health, whether it's a lens of substance abuse. I, too, am tired. So you ask why. That's why I need the study to find out and get to the why. So I need to know why there is this increase in violence and aggression towards our law enforcement officers. And I did hear the community members say that I'm not addressing what the police officers are doing. I beg to differ in that. At the same time, we have to start somewhere. I can't keep having 25 officer-involved shootings happen on a routine and regular basis and not do something about it. The president of police.
Can you please keep it down and respect the chiefs? Sir, can you please keep it down? Thank you.
So thank you. So this study is not a political football. I need to do my job. I need to be proactive as a chief and share and show what is happening from beginning to middle to end. If there is something that the officers can learn in training, if there's something that can be de-escalated, that is what this study will prove. This is not going to stop here. So we're going to add the additional piece, and I actually wrote down, and I don't remember which of the speakers talked about it, adding that community piece into the mix with the Arizona State University study where we hear from the community. I don't know why this is happening. And that's why I'm coming to you all asking for the opportunity to be able to look into this. I am hopeful that it doesn't take 6 months to complete the study, but at the same time, I have day after day, incident after incident, with at least 15 individuals pointing guns at or shooting at our officers. And to be clear, I want everyone to know this, officers don't want the end result to be people dying. Officers didn't sign up for that. That's not what we signed up for. However, that's what we're dealing with. And so in order for us to be proactive in our approach, in order for us to learn the whys, in order for us to get better, in order for us to communicate with the community, I believe that this is the beginning step in that effort to do so.
You know, one of the things I heard from Ms. Woods was that, is there a study, are they going to look at throughout the country the whole issue of body cameras, also counselors, also if psychologists, individuals that are experts in those different fields to help us understand that too. I'm not sure if the foundation provides that or not.
So the foundation study won't look into that. However, we do have a partnership with Arizona State University that's looking at our body-worn cameras. We've implemented counselors into the police department. We are currently, Chief Kurtenbach and I are actually working with some behavioral health groups to try to create two dynamics. Dynamic one is to have mental health professionals in our communications center to be sitting next to our dispatchers to listen to calls and to best describe and help and assist officers in that process with individuals who have mental health. The second is a wild idea, and that idea is actually to assign mental health counselors in the cars with officers so that quite frankly, officers didn't sign up to be psychologists. But now in our society, we are dealing with every piece of that equation, and so we're working towards a process to pilot having mental health professionals in vehicles with our officers. And lastly, to the body-worn camera point that Ms. Wood brought up, we did have I think you all are aware, we had a study out in Maryville Precinct where we had 150 body-worn cameras assigned. We've increased that to 150 thanks to you all's support, and we have them citywide, but we only have 300 cameras on officers. We have a current request for a proposal that's out that is hopeful for us to complete at the end of this year, beginning of next year, where we can deploy more body-worn cameras out and about in the field. And I said one last point. I do have one more point. We do have a transparency protocol where in 23 of our last officer-involved shootings, we invite different community members in to watch the video, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. They weigh in and give us their opinions on what they see, and we challenge them to go out and share the message of us being transparent. So I will close with, I'm not afraid of the truth, which is why I'm sitting here asking a third party to come in, which is why I'm listening to our community members express their frustration. Law enforcement is frustrated too.
Mayor Williams.
Thank you. Chief, as part of this study, I'm a firm believer based on what I know happened in my district, and I'm seeing more all the time. We are having a different experience than we've had The number of homeless people has more than tripled that live here. Drug use is just blown up. I mean, I have neighbors in what they think are protected neighborhoods, which is self-protected, I just want them to think. But they're finding needles. We have them in the alleys. And I'm a firm believer that our mental health problems is because there is no agency, there is no government that provides services to them. I believe that's a state responsibility, and I think the officers face those people every day. And the people who have been involved in this, the statistics show that there's been a high proportion of either mentally ill or substance abuse problems. I like the idea of you having counselors or psychologists available. What I want to know is, I know the foundation doesn't provide that information, but if you're doing a joint project with ASU to do some of the research, can they look into those fields and say, hey, this is what's missing in our community. We need mental health services for people. Make it truly available. How do we address some more of the drug problem? Is it through our courts? I mean, there's all kinds of potential. But I would like to have them look outside and see what's really going on in this community. We have a lot of good people live here. We have a lot of interested people that want to be part of this. But I think we have to really be holistic in our approach to this, and it can't just be victim and it can't just be police. We have to address what the real problems are and look at how to fix them. And it's more than the city, and it's more than the police department. But I think we need to get out in front and talk about it. Somebody brought up the domestic violence. It become a whole community and a statewide project. I think we need to address this in that same format as we go forward. You're not the only department facing this problem. I think the other departments would welcome the information and the support going forward. I will support this study, but I want to make sure that you know it's a first step. It is not the end. It is to come back, it is to have the ASU analysis in addition, and then I want to come back to subcommittee and tell us what the next step will be.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I have, Ken, can you come back up here? Crane.
So Mayor Williams, members of the subcommittee, while Ken is coming up, can I comment on the mental health piece?
Mm-hmm.
So last week, I had the opportunity, or the city had the opportunity to meet with Mercy Maricopa. They are the mental health provider for our urgent psychiatric care facility. As you're aware, when we had the incident at 91 West Valletta, the person who was released after being summoned in for 36 times, then we have the officer-involved shooting at 19th Avenue in Grant. There was also someone that had been petitioned and was let out. We, as a holistic group in the city, decided at that moment that we, Mercy Maricopa, can begin speaking with the folks in the state and the policymakers to begin to address that. The second piece to that, too, is in our partnership with Arizona State University, we're going to have a researcher on site at the police department in order to take ideas and concepts and move forward with them. So again, it is my hope that the Arizona State piece is a secondary piece to the beginning of the study to understand the information so that we can holistically find out what some of the triggers are and what's going on in our community from all perspectives, from the mental health perspective, from the drug and alcohol perspective, perhaps from a socioeconomic perspective.
Can I respect? Thank you, because we have such a gap in this state. As an adult, there is absolutely no long-term service to provide mental health services, and even for drug and alcohol rehab. And I just truly believe that there are some people, I mean, I think that's an example, that need this. They need supervision probably their whole life, but there's no one to do it. Parents can't do it, family members can't do it. And many times, I've worked in the jails and I understand, they go to street medication because it is not as bad as the prescribed medication they have, which compounds the problem. And I truly believe that we need to go to the legislature, to the governor, and make them understand this is not just a way around it. It is something that this state needs, and it continues to grow as population continues to grow, and I just think we need to get ahead of it. So thank you. Sorry, Ken.
So Ken, I was going to ask you a question, but I'm going to ask you another question, talking about mental health. One of the things that I was educated is that we have calls on mental health calls. Can you explain that, what that is?
I'm sorry, state the question again, please.
Yeah, mental health calls, when a police officer is called by a provider of.
Yeah,
doctor
we get these calls frequently. We call them mental health pickups. There can be a lot of times a court order. And what we did as a police department is we formed special squads, specially trained squads of people trained to deal with mentally ill. They are not subject to answering normal calls for service, which means if they need to spend an hour out there, that's what they'll do, to do those mental health pickups, to try to avoid, catastrophic outcomes. And it's important that we do that. The problem on the flip side is we are often thrust into a situation on the street dealing with a violent person that could be mentally ill, but we don't have the ability in that split second to sit there and figure out what we're dealing with, because the person that is violent is unreasonable, maybe has a weapon, is maybe posing a threat that escalates very rapidly. But for the mental health pickups, yeah, we formed a couple of special squads for that, and they're working pretty well from what I've heard. I talked to some of those guys. But yeah, I think the department is proactive in that area.
So I know that you're against the study for a different reason why the rest of the individuals that were testifying. So let's say if we don't do the study, what would be your suggestion on that?
Yeah, and so listen, I'll tell everybody in here, we don't claim to have all the answers, okay? We see things from our perspective, and we have our viewpoints, and I'll share some of those with you. So on a study like this, $150,000 is a lot of coin, okay? Routinely, the city, the police department, they cry poor, we don't have money, we can't do this, we can't do that. So we think maybe the funds would be better spent on implementing logistics and methods that would enable the chief to conduct outreach to Phoenix communities, the population as a whole, to impact the message of cooperation and compliance. She could network with community leaders to leverage their current roles to become more cohesive ambassadors for the city, where in their narratives, interactions, and reach could educate citizens by working to eradicate divisiveness and fostering respect for authority. That's where that's where our line officers see the breakdown out on the street. And I'm not painting with a broad brush. It's a lot of our citizens are, when we come out there, we interact, it goes well. They're compliant. They do what we say or what we ask of them. But I think education is important. Training is important. The PD is always looking for more and better ways of training, but more community outreach back here at home rather than spending $150,000 to an out-of-state DC think tank. I even suggested to the chief maybe the possibility, let's take some of that money and do some educational PSAs that we could pump out to the community via local cable channels, Spanish television, radio, Spanish radio, things of that nature. Because, and I think the message is simple, listen, if you're stopped by the police, if you have contact with the police, there's two things we want. We want you to go home safe, and we want to go home safe. How do we make that happen? That's the kind of stuff we think we should be working on and spending money on.
Hold on for a second, and then any other questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Ken talked about the crisis intervention team squads. We do have a total of 16 officers assigned to those squads. But as Ken mentioned, they are not assigned to routine call answering functions. And so that's what we're seeing when our officers interact with the individuals who, some of whom have been involved in our officer-involved shooting.
Hold on for a second, and then, Ken, the other thing is, with that suggestion that you made, how do we include the community involvement piece of it? Because I think that's one of the outcries that we're hearing, is that there needs to be some type of community input to it.
Yeah, correct. And clearly, we'd have to sit down and meet with members of the community to decide if you're doing messaging to the community, what's the messaging going to be? What's it going to look like? How are we going to get it out there? What's the best method to get it out there? Things like that.
Okay, thank you. Chief?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, as a component of this study, the study was going to work with the union to speak with them about processing through this study and to get their assistance. We weren't going to leave the union out in the study. They will be part of it. And again, back to the community piece, we'll engage Arizona State University to come up with what that looks like.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Pastor?
Yes, I keep hearing the partnership with ASU. I would like to know what the National Police Foundation is going to do. Because I know what ASU can do, because I've worked with ASU on many studies. And for me, regarding this, how are the two entities going to fuse together and do this study? Because nowhere in here does it show where ASU, what the responsibility of ASU is supposed to be doing. And nowhere in here does it really break down, for me, what the National Police Foundation is going to provide in participation of the study. And so I'm struggling right now with this in the sense of, and I'm a detailed person, so in the sense of what will this study look like, who's involved, what elements are involved, and and how is it built in a holistic way to look at the study? Because I also believe it's the responsibility of both sides to be looked at, and how the situation or incident came about. So I'm really struggling with it, only because I don't know if there's a possibility to ever get to that answer. So
Mr.
I have faith in it.
Councilwoman Pastor, members of the subcommittee, again, I have to start someplace. 25 officer-involved shootings, 15 of which had people that had guns, knives, weapons, all the above, pointing at the officers. So what this study will do is begin the process of dissecting each of those individual incidents, what happened before, during, and after, to make recommendations that can improve the chances of better understanding why these incidents are happening, better understanding the frequency of what's happening, provide information and training to the officers. I think Mayor Williams' point of what's the next steps are, and then I need to get to the next steps, but the beginning process is a study. We have spoken with Arizona State University initially on getting them to partner with us and then work with this National Police Foundation. They have not met one another. So the beginning process was getting this study conducted so we can look at the who, what, where's, and whys of what's going on in society that's causing the increase in our officer-involved shootings and violence in the community. And then give information and training to our officers so that we can keep our officers and our community safe. Step two, in my opinion, would take information from this study and have Arizona State University holistically look at what's going on in our communities. Is it communication? Is it education? Ken makes a great point about public service announcements. Perhaps ASU can look into the public service announcements, working with our community members, working with our labor organizations. So that is what I see as step one and step two. But I'm going to go back to what I said before. I do have to start somewhere, and looking at and dissecting the incidents and scenarios and situations that are leading to the officer-involved shootings that we're having such an increase in is a beginning step, and that's what the National Police Foundation will do.
So Ken, last question, then I'll let you go, is what do you think is the biggest issue regarding this study?
Okay, so regarding the study, And I get what the impetus is to want to do the study, and we want to get information. But they say, well, we want to try to improve the chance of reducing the frequency of incidents. Well, that's what we all want, okay? But the problem is a study like this isn't realistic. To provide a recommendation like that, the entire environment would need to be studied, to including examining external variables that impact in each and every event. These would include things like annual population sizes, citywide and in the OIS areas, demographic makeup, societal shifts in law enforcement perceptions, shifts in annual socioeconomics of the population, and others, bringing all factors together for a more comprehensive study and diminishing the assumption or bias that only internal PPD variables influence officer-involved shootings. That's a tall order on 26 shootings to get done in 6 months. That's a lot of digging and data research. But without that, the full analysis of study would be one-sided. However, it changes the request and probably necessitates the need for more extensive study, which will increase funding amounts. Could there be a change in societal factors outside the department that play a role, need examination, and offer a full picture and inclusion into insight and recommendation? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. That's a strong possibility. And then with each OIS, each individual OIS exists a voluminous list of variables that include type of crimes that were committed and or occurring, number of officers involved. Was there backup officers there or not there? What was the lighting? Was it daytime or nighttime? What was the type of imminent threat or threat level to the community? What weapons were utilized or available? What was the size or physical limitations of officers and suspects involved? What was the weather? So to compile this data for each case is a massive undertaking, which could lead to the research firm requesting extension of time and funds. And so the question then becomes, is the city prepared to pay those? And is there a project flexibility clause being built into the contract that could cause this to occur? Here's the other question. What research firm has ever compiled the voluminous amounts of data on multiple incidents, let alone 26 cases together in any city, for the purpose of drawing conclusions or recommendation when no two cases are alike and likely impossible to compare on an apple-to-apples basis? A cursory look shows the Phoenix Foundation, or the Police Foundation, has studied OISs on a case-by-case review and not an aggregate. What's the methodology to tackle such an enormous undertaking in such a small amount of time? Has there or will there be a predetermined set of criteria the study will focus on? And if so, whose decision is that? And are the criteria selected as a representative portion or a complete list or specific to an agenda? So since we have 3 different investigations on each shooting by the PD, there's a great deal of data gathered, followed by review by the Maricopa County attorneys. So it seems that we might be spending a lot of taxpayer dollars duplicating effort to collect data that we've already collected through 3 levels of investigation and 1 level of outside investigative review. That's the concern.
Thank you. Chief.
So, Mr. Chairman, to that point, Ken is right about the volumes of information, but I'm not talking about a firm or a company that's not done this before. So the National Police Foundation, it constantly has information on 1,200 officer-involved shootings that have been compiled, and they have access to this through all of the major cities. So I belong to the Major City Chiefs Association. So they will be able to make an apples-to-apples comparison. I do like the idea that Ken is saying that I don't want to spend any more money than I need to spend. So it's not going to be this ongoing process. But once again, I will say that I do believe that we need to start someplace, and the National Police Foundation has done these before, has done studies before, and they don't have to begin the process without knowing because they are aware of what's going on with shootings and law enforcement agencies.
Thank you. We have 2 more cards, Gail Knight and J.J. Johnson. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council members, Subcommittee. I wasn't here to speak on this particular item. I was here to speak on item 6. But after hearing the representative from PLE talk about recommendations and suggestions, which they have brought in the past every time the community continues to come and say we need to do something about police-community relations, and then at that point, they are interested in meeting and dialoguing with the community, talking about ways in which they can strengthen. And every time that we have come forward, they have been the major opposition. So I ask that you give that some real thought in your decision today. Do not allow plea to be the one to influence you. I will say this to you as well. When we had the incident with former Councilman Michael Johnson in 2010, and we had the first Community Police Relations Committee that came forth with a host of recommendations that did not move forward. Then another situation occurred, and then we had the Community Police Trust Initiative that brought recommendations. And a lot of those recommendations include continued focus on police-involved shootings, to continue to look at the anxiety levels that occur with police when they approach individuals in the community. What is going to be the training for that? You all have just reams of information from the community that you need to review and look at, that some of these officers in this room have sat with us and talked about how we can improve upon the issues that are going on in our community. And here we sit today. Remember, we came to you with recommendations. You hired Professor Whitaker. Then that got sabotaged. Nothing else occurred. The chief brought forward a recommendation. That got sabotaged. We're now back to 24 shootings. Where do we go from here? I am asking you all to move forward on these recommendations and stop sitting on them, because it is not helping the community.
Mr. Johnson.
Mayor, council members. It was interesting that Chief Williams mentioned transparency, because one of our citizens was killed on May 21st, and Phoenix PD still hasn't bothered to identify that person. That person was killed on Central and Willetta, but we'll just let them slide. So hopefully we'll get a press release today explaining the circumstances of that killing. It dawned on me while I was listening. I hadn't planned to speak on this item. It dawned on me what changed, why we're having this spike. We just went through a training module. The training module is the variable. So we just had this training module that all the officers got, and now we have a huge spike in shootings. What happened? I asked to attend that training module, and we were denied. So again, the malignant opacity of this police department is on full display. What happened in that training module? What did you tell them, Chief Williams, that enabled them to kill at twice the rate of last year? I am tired of coming up here. I'm tired of taking time off from work. My billable rate is $115 an hour. I'm tired of taking time off from work to come here over and over again. We've had studies, we've had conversations, CPTI, one thing after another. Nothing gets accomplished, nothing changes. I'm tired, I'm furious. This is going to be, we will see you at the ballot box. If you're not going to make this an issue, we're going to punish you at the ballot box. Ed Zerker, I have no idea what he's doing that is more important today than being here right now. He works for you. You need to fire him. He needs to take this chief with him. He needs to take Milton Dohoney with him. We need new blood and new leadership. You can't influence directly what the police department does because of the city manager's strong system. Get rid of the city manager. Get rid of the deputy city manager. Get rid of this police chief. It's time. This lethal experiment is not something we're going to tolerate any further.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other comments from my colleagues? Well, I have a comment. As I sit here as the chair of public safety and listen to both sides, I think there's two different issues. One of the issues that we're going to put on a future agenda item is looking at some type of victims fund throughout the whole country and what's the best practices and if there's a need for it here in the city of Phoenix. So that's one of the things that we're looking at in the near future to put on the future agenda item. We're doing our research. We're making sure that we pick up the best practices if we adopt it or if there's a need for it. So I think that's one of the things that we're doing right now is doing the research for that. So I know that a lot of individuals that came up and spoke against the study, it was really about the Victims Fund. So I want to let you know that that is in the future agenda item for this committee to talk about if there's a need for it or not. The other thing is I believe that all of our police officers and all of our members that are involved in law enforcement wake up with the best intentions of protecting and serving our community. I know that every time there's an officer involved shooting, I get calls from the chief and from the commander on duty and basically giving us an update. And it hurts. It hurts to see that our young men and women in uniform are put in that position, and it's sad that our community is put in that position too. I don't believe that any of us want to see the increase of anyone being killed. And I believe that we need to find the reasons why. We need to get that data. We need to find out that information of if there's an increase, like the mayor was saying, of the uses of drugs. Is it the homeless situation that we're finding here? What's creating all this violence? We had 15 individuals that have been shooting at our police officers, and the officers responded back with fire. So that 15 officers were protecting themselves. As those reports came out, and I read them in detail, our staff reads them in details, I know that all of us up here read them in detail. There's about 3 or 4 that were actually with knives that came after our officers. So we read all those reports in detail, and we take that all at heart. This last incident that happened yesterday, we're waiting for that report to come out. Regarding the handcuffs, I'm not really sure, but I can't answer those questions until we get a full report on it. But we just got to understand what that handcuff was used for, or if there's anything else in there. So that's what we're waiting for. So I really can't comment on yesterday's accident, but I can tell you that the other 15 and with the other 3 with the knives, that we've got those full reports. So I believe that there needs to be some type of communication among all groups. I mean, from our police officers being represented by PLEA, by our chief and her administration, and the community at large. But we need to figure that out. We've sat here with Michael Johnson as somebody that actually brought that up, and this last task force that we created. And we need to figure things out that with the new leadership at the police level, with the new chief, that we don't continue to change the input from our community. So I believe that we need to sit down, gather information, gather data. I'm not sure if gathering data from the National Police Foundation is the right approach or not. I believe working along with ASU, gathering the research and data that we need to understand what's going out there in our society, in our communities, is something that's really needed. And we as a council are frustrated just as the police chief is, and we want to come and find out what the truth is. And that's what we're here today, folks, is to try to get closer to that truth. So with that, I'll entertain if there's any other comments, and then a motion.
Well, I have a question about the study. And I guess the question, or actually I'm probably looking into the study of what is included in the study. Will a mental health examination of our officers be included? Will there be an implicit bias evaluation included? Will there'll be a track record of the use of force before the officers shooting. I mean, because if my concern is that the study include both sides, and it's not just a one-sided as to why is the community or why are people using guns or pulling out guns in front of officers. I want to see a very holistic. And what I mean by holistic, it means all sides and everybody that's involved. The other question is, how will the community be embedded in this process? Because I'm just going to bring something up, and it has nothing to do with this, but we're already right now looking at another piece, an element in our transportation world regarding South Central Light Rail and how community involvement was there, hit or miss. But we promise as a city to always involve the community, yet I keep hearing from the community they're not involved. And so I struggle. I'm trying to figure out how or get to the why. Chief Williams, and you and I have these conversations, and where I'm just like, we got to understand. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, and members of the subcommittee, so that the study is just to give me intel and information on the who, what, where, when, whys, from the point of contact to the point of stop, what is going on with the suspect prior to. So this is going to give us the bottom piece. You incorporate Arizona State University armed with this information, invite community members in to find out some of the societal and systemic issues. The community will understand and will get information from this study, just like I'll get information from the study. But I believe that this is the base that leads to bringing in the community and better understanding, as Ms. Knight talked about, some of the key components of the CPTI, talking about cultural competencies, talking about communication. So that's what this study is going to do. It's the basis and the foundation to gather more information from the police officer side, as well as understand what some of the behaviors are from the suspect side, as well as give us training and offer us opportunities to communicate with our community. Arizona State University would be the secondary piece or the holistic piece to bring in the community and hear from the community their concerns. I do want to say to the community piece, and you're right, we've had many conversations about bringing in the community. To that end, for our transparency protocols, we invite members of the community in to view videos. Some of the individuals and a couple of the groups who are seated behind me have invited but have not attended. We will continue to invite and continue to bring in our community members.
Mr. Chair.
Mayor?
I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to approve this going forward. I have worked with Gail Knight for many years, and I think she's right. We need to do something. And if this is your recommendation to get the whole process started again, I am willing to go with you. But we're talking first step.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Already, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the issue, on the motion? The only thing I would like to add in there is that we make sure that there is that community component somehow, some way. And if you can get a list of individuals that were probably at the subcommittee meeting to see the groups that they were representing, that would be a good start. The other thing is to make sure that our union is included too with plea, that they have some input on the study also.
So if I may add one thing, I don't know if I can do this after a motion. I will ask the foundation to include a community piece so that we can hear some of the information from the community, just to close that loop.
I will amend my motion to include that recommendation.
Does the second
Sure.
confirm? Already, we have that, and I believe that what we're trying to do is trying to find the truth here. We're trying to gather data, information, and we're trying to bring it all together by using the foundation, the police National Foundation, and ASU to gather that information, those resources that they have throughout the country that can help us rush that process so we can bring that information in front of the council and my colleagues so that we can actually make a decision on which way to go. Once again, for those individuals that were advocating for the Victims Fund, that's something we're going to be hearing in the near future, and that's a whole different issue besides this gathering of information and the truth. With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Next item would be item number 6.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, item 6 is closing a loop that the police department has had open for some time. As was mentioned by Ms. Knight, there was an initial consultant that the city brought on in order to train officers in cultural competencies. We ran into some roadblocks with that. From there, we went through an RFP process, or request for a proposal process, where we weren't successful in finding anyone that was able to bridge the gap between community and law enforcement. Recently, Chief Tovar and Chief Kurtenbach attended a training seminar where they met one of our trainers or one of our potential trainers. Dr. Bryant has gone all over the country training in cultural competencies. All of his material is his own. He is not using any material from others. He is well-renowned, and he is training both LA County Sheriff's Department as we speak, as well as LAPD. In the brief conversation that I had with him, he is focused on making us better as a police department and making us better as a community. And with that, we would ask for you to entertain the opportunity to have him come in and conduct our cultural competency training.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, if I could just add to what Chief Williams said. As she mentioned, Assistant Chief Tovar and I had the opportunity to attend training. Specifically, what that training was, it was civil and human rights training hosted in Atlanta, Georgia. It was conducted by the Auschwitz Institute for Peace and Reconciliation at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. There were 24 law enforcement professionals around the country that applied and were given the opportunity to attend this training. 2 members from the Phoenix PD executive staff were there. As part of that training, we received a block on implicit bias by Dr. Bryant Marks. I've been a police officer for 28 years. I was a commander of our training bureau, as the assistant chief over training. I've been to a lot of training, and this was extraordinary training. Dr. Marks is a national expert on implicit bias, and this isn't me saying it. That's written very clearly by the LA Police Commission in their report on best practices that they issued in May 2nd of 2017. He also served as a principal implicit bias trainer for the White House under the Obama administration, training over 2,000 law enforcement executives from around the nation on implicit bias. He got his undergraduate degree at Morehouse College in Atlanta in psychology. He received his master's and his PhD from the University of Michigan in social psychology. As the chief mentioned, he's trained all of Los Angeles PD, over 9,000 sworn members of the Los Angeles Police Department. I also had the opportunity to go through the training in Atlanta with 2 members of the LAPD command staff. And they said, and it's also articulated by the Police Commission, that it's the best training that LAPD has received in this topic in over 20 years. In addition to Los Angeles Police Department, he's provided city and county government training in Newark, Long Beach, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Denver, just to name a few. We want to make our department better. This is an excellent department, but there's always opportunities for improvement. We believe this will definitely help make our department stronger.
Thank you. Any comments? We have about 5 cards from the public. All right, Heather? Okay. We have Joanne Scott Woods.
Okay, I just have one sentence. I would also like to recommend for screening recruits a cultural bias test as well.
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear what.
Basically,
what
go ahead.
Screening recruits for a cultural bias test.
So Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, they do receive some type of bias training in the academy, but this takes it to a different level and a different step. This is also, and we didn't mention this, one of the checked boxes that's still left open from the CPTI from earlier was having this cultural competency training. So the recruits in the academy will get it, onboard officers will get it, but we do have some cultural competency training in the academy.
If I understood her correct, though, I think she wanted it as you're screening applicants.
As you're screening applicants, or
Yeah.
or as you're screening recruits to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably
Okay,
do
I'm
an
sorry.
MMPI and make sure you add the questions that
Cultural
could
bias
determine that.
So to Ms. Scott Wood's point, and she just mentioned it from the audience, as part of the process to hire officers, there's a psychological evaluation that includes a test that has over 900 questions in it that gets to such things as biases. So although there isn't a specific broken out test as she's asking for, that's embedded in the psychological evaluation of all Phoenix Police recruits. Councilmember?
Okay.
Pastor?
I think we could talk about it later.
All right, we have another.
Further.
Richard Cruz.
Just take it. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be really kind of brief because I'm a long-winded person, but I know I've got a limit. The room reeks of death. And the reason the room reeks of death is for all the reasons that people have already identified, but the issue that has to be addressed within that is to understand that when we're talking about equity, we cannot, like, I wouldn't go to the morgue or the coroner to have conversations about how do we have healthier babies in South Phoenix? Like, how do we have healthier births in South Phoenix, right? I wouldn't have that conversation because it's not what they do. And unfortunately, what our statistics have shown us is that when it comes to being able to identify who it is that should impart build the technical assistance and capacity around equity, this room has not shown, like, you've actually shown that you don't have that ability. And for the simple reason that, yes, like with the previous piece, that, you know, this has been happening. The officer involved shooting piece has been happening, right? The inequity has been happening. It's not new. And this isn't like Strawberry, Arizona, where like we're some small town without a budget, and like that's not the case. Right? And so like we're reaching out to find somebody. This is not a plug for me. We're reaching out to find people when we've got some of the best equity trainers in the country that live right here. It's not a plug for me because I've got small children and I drive around at night and I don't trust all of Phoenix PD. So how I could even have that conversation, but you've got to go out broader. And yes, it could be a great curriculum, but you need people who understand Phoenix, like that understand Arizona, because this is a different animal than all the others. And right now you're not qualified to figure out who those people are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Haven't we done this before? Hasn't this been done over and over and over again? We still have complete opacity when it comes to early intervention. We still have officers like Kevin McGowan walking the streets with a gun and badge after he kicked the teeth out of a man, was fired, got his job back, and then he participated in the killing of Muhammad Muhaimin. And, okay, so we're going to do some more racial bias training. Guess what? I don't need a PhD from out of state to come in and tell me who's a racist with a badge. I really don't. I really don't. And if this intercongratulatory hugathon wants to, you know, if you need to do that to make yourselves feel good about the continuation of the violence of this department and the disparity in arrest of how so many more black men and women are arrested versus all other races combined. I mean, if we still want to continue to lick this ice cream cone of misery over and over again, instead of just fixing the problem, get new leadership in here. You guys are going around every other possibility other than firing your city manager. He is failing. This chief, great person individually, but the job that she has done is subpar. Burn it down. Start over. It's not working. You're trying to do the same thing over and over again. Burn it down.
Thank you. Gail Knight.
Good morning again. As stated earlier, this report and this request was made a couple of years ago. It has continued to be blocked for one reason or another. There were thousands of residents throughout the city of Phoenix, including the disability community and the senior community, that said, this needs to happen. I have worked for years, along with others in the community, with Chief Kurtenbach and Tovar. They have done wonderful work in finding solutions to problems. The recommended group to come in, I have been to their workshops in other cities. I have talked to police officers in other cities that have said that it has made a difference in their community. What I am asking again for follow-up and follow-through. After you make a promise to residents that come out to meetings in the evening, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, week after week after week, and then we give recommendations, and the report comes forward, and it goes through all the debate, and there is approval, and it sits. So I'm asking once more, like I did on item 5, can we please move this forward to the city council and get this work done? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mayor?
I totally agree with her, and I move approval of this to go forward.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second and discussion on the motion. I just have a comment, is that this is something we heard from the community. This is something that the community actually wanted us to do. We had a RFP that was out there. We ended up contracting an individual that had some questions regarding that hire. And now we asked the chief to go out there and make sure that we find the best individual that was out there. And I believe we've done that. An individual that understands the whole training and the needs of race and equality within our communities, has been doing this throughout the country. And I'll be in support of this item. Any other comments? Councilmember Pastor.
Chief, it just triggered me. Once this training has been delivered, because we're always hiring new police officers, so this training will get delivered and we'll have a consultant out. What is the plan? And I know it's probably, I'm already thinking towards the future. And I think with the plan for the future, that then we include local, I guess it's more of support of what then the training, what the training has been given, and then the local equity councils then can come into play and give support on certain dialogue or certain training. I look at it as continuous professional development, and continuous situations where we're in situations that we don't, or I don't understand, and I don't understand how to move it, or what does it mean? I may interpret it differently than the other person, and so how do we then go through that fog to understand, to get to what really is being said? And so I was just thinking, because I was listening, that maybe for the future, that would be the plan to support implicit bias and cultural competencies as we get trained by a national leader and then move into local. So that's just a thought, because you and I have talked about this piece round and round, and how I was always saying this needs to come in, this needs to come in, and I'm so happy that it's here. So thank you.
And with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We're on item number 9. That's for information only. I know that most of us were informed on it. Does anybody else need more?
No.
Alrighty. So then we'll go to item number 10.
Good, Helen. Can we just vote on this?
There's
Oh,
no
no
action.
Okay.
It's information. That's all.
Okay. All right.
I guess my question is, do we have a problem?
Well, we'll kind of outline all that information, and I guess you can make the decision on that one. So from our perspective, we don't think there's a problem on the way the codes and laws are written right now, but that'll be in our presentation for you.
Thank you.
So good morning, Chairman Okowski, Mayor Williams, Councilmember Pastor. We're here today with Chief Price joining me to brief you at your request on blasting operations, limitations upon those operations, and how they're managed within the city of Phoenix. The fire department, through the fire code, is charged with the responsibility and the authority to oversee these events that occur in the city of Phoenix. We do that through our fire prevention section. And so Chief Price manages that section, so I've asked him to provide you with more information and details exactly how we do that. Chief Price?
Morning, Mayor Williams, Chairman Nowakowski, Councilwoman Pastor. Blasting at a national level is governed by the National Fire Protection Association's Explosive Materials Code, which is NFPA 495. That particular document adopted the recommendations of the United States Bureau of the Interior for blasting levels. That was a report that they did called 8507. The principal governance for blasting is air blast and ground vibration. So air blast is a measurement of the sudden rush of air associated with the blast, and for the national standard, that measurement, maximum allowable variable, is measured in decibels at 133, and ground vibration is measured in inches per second peak particle velocity. The national standard for ground vibration is a measurement of 2. In Phoenix, the council adopted International Fire Code governs blasting. That's chapter 56 of that code. And our principal requirements are 129 decibels for air blast and a value of 1 for ground vibration, which is twice as restrictive as the national standard. Additionally, the fire department requires a permit for all blasting operations in the city of Phoenix. Along with that permit, when a blasting contractor comes on to do the blasting work, they are required to do a pre-blast survey of all structures within 500 feet of the blast site. Additionally, before the blast, notification is required for all structures within 500 feet of the site. Blasts are required to be monitored by a contractor to ensure their compliance with the code. Additionally, the fire department is there to monitor for code compliance. And when a blasting permit is concluded, a post-blast survey is done to compare the evaluation of the surrounding structures with the information in the pre-blast survey. There are 2 locations within the city of Phoenix that are doing blasting operations within 500 feet of a residential structure currently. That is the Cave Creek and Beardsley Quarry, which is a mining operation, also known as the Buffalo Ridge Quarry, and the Loop 202 South Mountain Freeway expansion efforts. The Cave Creek and Beardsley Quarry is located in Council District 2 in North Phoenix, just south of the 101 freeway and west of Cave Creek. This is a close-up of the quarry. You can see it's in that red box right there. There are homes adjacent to the quarry to the north and to the east, And within the last 18 months, blasts have occurred in approximately these locations at the quarry site. All of those blasts have been done in compliance with the Phoenix Fire Code, protecting the adjacent structures. As an example specifically, if we look at the site, a blast is conducted in this location at the site. Seismographs are placed in these locations to monitor for compliance with the code. Take a look at this chart for a moment. You can see the black line on the chart is representative of the national standards, or NFPA 495, that governs blasting. The Phoenix Fire Department standard for ground vibration and blasting, again, is a value of 1, which is twice as restrictive as this national standard. And the blasts at the Cave Creek and Beardsley Quarry within the last 18 months are represented, on the dots on this graph, and you can see that they are under the allowable limits of the Phoenix Fire Code and far under the allowable limits of NFPA 495. Some additional context for this topic is the potential for structural damage to occur is when blasts occur over a value of 2 and between 3 is where you could get cosmetic damages to a structure. We could potentially see minor damages to a structure at a value over 3 and major damages to a structure at a value over 5. Again, the Loop 202 South Mountain Freeway, there is blasting operations as part of that construction process. We did prepare a short video, but in the interest of time, that video was just about blasting in the 202 freeway. We'll skip the video for now. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mayor?
No, I'm familiar with this area because it used to be part of my district. And I know it's been going on for 30, 40 years. And when the homes were built, I'm pretty sure there was a stipulation that they had to sign and acknowledge that site was there and the explosions occurred. Well, I don't know if it was complied with, but I was pretty sure that was part of the discussion back then because I recall that happening or being part of a discussion. So if everybody's in compliance, I don't understand why this is before us.
This was requested, I believe, through Councilman Waring to Councilman Nowakowski to have this information put forward for you. Based on the code and our standard, as Chief Price has obviously articulated to you, there hasn't been any issues to that compared to the code. As far as the information we have received, obviously there's several homeowners in there, so we don't know what may or may not. They've all were informed when they purchased a home. You're correct, the blasting has occurred for over 50 years in this location, and so obviously many homes have been sold in there, so we do not have that information if they've all been informed.
And what I've often found is it's the original home buyer that signs and it never gets passed along as the property is resold. I don't know if that's the case or not.
That would be consistent with what we have been told. We have been told that at some point, some of the homeowners were made notified when they bought homes. It did sign, but as you said, many homes have been sold since then, so we don't know if that has been passed along.
We do have one person, Jill.
I'm nervous.
Take your time.
My name is Jill Rogers, and I've lived 4 blocks away from the quarry for 17 years. Nobody is told that the quarry is there when they purchase their biggest investment of their life, their home. There's a steel blockade to the driveway, and by the way, I'm by the Buffalo Ridge off of Cave Creek and Beardsley. There's no sign or anything notifying you that there is a mine in that location. There's a steel blockade there that you can't go into the mine, but you wouldn't know it if you drove by it. There's zero notification when a blast occurs. I am over 500 feet away from the blast site, and it affects my home. My home shakes. Phoenix Fire has been to my home. We've had a seismograph in my yard. The way I can explain this is if I came to your home and just sat there and threw rocks at your home, what would happen to me? I would be arrested for vandalism. And that's what's happening from these mine blasts, is it is affecting our homes. It's affecting the streets, the sewers, the lights. There's a school that, Northridge High School, butts up right against it on the south side. This is human-caused vandalism to taxpayer infrastructure that is being granted by the city. I know at Scarlet Canyon, which is at 16th Street and 101 on the north side, that they feel these blasts. We all use the Nextdoor app. They post on there. I come home, I got a crack wall. I know if they're feeling it at North Canyon, that 101 highway is shaking, and those bridges at 16th Street and Cave Creek and 101 are also shaking. Yesterday's blast, they were out yesterday, we had a seismograph in my yard. Somebody that's within 500 feet reported on Nextdoor, you know, it blew a shelf off their wall in their home. My sprinkler system, I constantly have leaks. This is vibrations throughout the neighborhood. We see gravel trucks in our residential area speeding up and down. These are 30-ton trucks going through our neighborhood. We got kids running around. When a blast occurs, it scares everybody. Our dogs go crazy. The kids are nuts. You know, nobody knows that this is going on. Air quality is involved because it does a dust plume when the blast goes off. There's the noise ordinance that's constantly being broken because these street sweepers are in there trying to collect the dust, and these gravel trucks are in and out before 5:30 a.m. I've lived in the area for 17 years, like I said. I've had to replace my water line from the city to my home 3 times. These water lines, we are told, are supposed to last for 20 years, and I've had to replace mine 3 times. I'd like to see the council revoke this permit. We cannot have blasting in a residential area. It's not right anymore. The infrastructure has been built around this mine. The mine has been there for 50 years, but it's time that it shut down. We can't have dynamite going off in residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
Mayor?
2 questions. One, how long is their permit for?
I believe the permit is a 3-year permit, but I'd have to check to
3?
see exact. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is it the permit granted by the city or the state or county?
Permit for blasting in compliance with the fire code is issued by the fire department.
Issued by the fire department. How about is this a mining operation?
Yes, ma'am.
How long or do you know how long the permit for that is?
I can't speak to the other authorities having jurisdiction that permit mining operations. I could look into that for you.
I would appreciate it because I think the two are probably too closely connected. They need both permits evaluated and considered. And then secondly, and although you said 17 years, I don't know if it's increased or not, or if it's as the mining operation has proceeded, has it changed areas so that the blasting is closer or changes the impact of the blast?
The areas that have occurred for blasting have been on the site, and they do blast in different areas, yes.
Right, so I mean, it's not like they're blasting go deeper and deeper and deeper. They move around the site, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so theoretically, I don't know if they could have moved closer to a neighborhood. I mean, I can't believe that anybody has to put up with rocks flying down in their house. The trucks is a whole different problem, and PD can take care of that problem, but cracks in the house and water lines, that sounds like either a builder problem or it has relocated, it's changed the impact.
I can tell you that resident concerns have been brought to the attention of the fire department, and we investigate all of them and follow up with the customer. We did put a seismograph in Ms. Rogers' house at her request. She's about 1,500 to 2,000 feet away from the blast site, and that seismic reading was 0.0275, which is far, far, far below the national standard to protect homes from even cosmetic damage. Our standard is 1.0, which is twice as restrictive as the national standard. But I will tell you that the fire department investigates and follows up with our customers.
And I appreciate that. I understand. Thank you.
So a couple questions. Is there a sign outside of the fencing of the mine, letting people know that there is a mine there?
There's a name for the business, but I can't say for sure if it says it mentions or states that they do blasting there.
And do we have any zoning issues on posting signs in mining areas? Possibility of explosions, don't cross?
That would be something we would have to investigate for you and get back with you.
If you can get back on that. And then the other thing is, following up with the mayor, if we can actually look at when the permits are up and maybe create some type of a community meeting where people can actually talk before issuing those types of permits. So we can get the full input from the community, and maybe there might be some easy fixes on the mining side of it that can actually prevent some of those plumbing and cracking of walls and stuff like that. This item is just basically for information and discussion. There's no action, but if you all have time, can you sit together and maybe, all right, all right.
Sorry.
And see if there's anything else we can do.
Can I?
Absolutely, go for it.
On the permit process, can we require that if it's blasting, there has to be a public sign so many feet from the property or close to the neighborhood or whatever? So in the future, if you issue the permit, the neighborhood or people passing by would be aware of it.
Go ahead.
I'll look into that specific requirement. There is a requirement for notification of all structures within 500 feet of the blast site. So they all get notified before the blast. But to your point of the sign, I'll have to look into that.
Now, could we do that? And if we don't, could you perhaps bring something forth that we do?
We can certainly do that. That may be something where we would have to amend or adopt a policy for us to make that, or maybe within zoning. So we'll investigate that and get that back for you.
So with that, this item is closed, and we're at item number 11 that we're going to continue it to next subcommittee meeting. And I'm not sure if there's any more calls to the public. Mayor, any future agenda items?
No.
All righty. With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.